Have you ever stopped to consider the immediate impacts of a conflict like the Israel-Hamas war on the world at large? The ramifications of such a conflict echo far beyond the borders of the warring parties, influencing lives and landscapes on a global scale. This war, like many others, has claimed hundreds of lives, leaving families grieving and communities in shock. But the human cost is not only measured in the lives lost. Thousands have been wounded, physically and emotionally, their lives forever marked by the scars of war. The war has also led to the displacement of people. Homes, neighborhoods, entire communities have been destroyed, forcing residents to abandon their familiar surroundings and seek shelter elsewhere. Imagine, if you will, losing everything you've known and loved in an instant. The place you called home, the neighbors you shared your life with, all gone in the blink of an eye. That's the harsh reality for many living in the conflict zones. But it's not just about the physical damage. The psychological trauma experienced by those living in the conflict zones is profound. The constant fear and anxiety, the loss of loved ones, the uncertainty of the future, these are all burdens that weigh heavily on the minds of those affected. Children in particular are at risk. They are forced to grow up quickly, their innocence stolen by the harsh realities of war. Let's not forget the disruption of daily life routines. Schools are closed, businesses are shuttered, and basic services are often unavailable. The rhythm of life is thrown into disarray, adding to the stress and uncertainty. In the blink of an eye, war can turn lives and landscapes into scenes of devastation. The immediate impacts of the Israel-Hamas war are a stark reminder of the high price we pay for conflict. As we delve deeper into the economic consequences, political ramifications, and long-term effects of this war in the upcoming scenes, let's keep in mind the human cost, for it is a cost that is all too often overlooked. What happens to the economy when war breaks out? The Israel-Hamas conflict provides some insights. When war clouds gather, economies tremble. The local economy of Israel, for instance, has been under stress. The shekel, Israel's currency, has plunged, reflecting the uncertainty and instability the conflict brings. On the other hand, the defense sector is experiencing a surge. Stocks related to defense have seen a significant rise, a grim reminder that war, while destructive, can be profitable for some. This isn't unique to Israel, it's a global phenomenon. The defense industry worldwide often sees a boost during times of conflict, as countries ramp up their military spending. But the economic implications of war aren't confined within the bounds of the warring nations. Take, for instance, the oil market. The Israel-Hamas conflict has caused jitters, leading to a spike in oil prices. This disruption has had a ripple effect across the globe, influencing gas prices at your local station, the cost of your airline ticket, and even the price tag on your groceries. It may also necessitate increased supply from major oil producers, such as Saudi Arabia, to stabilize prices. Moreover, any war in a region as geopolitically sensitive as the Middle East has potential to trigger wider economic fallout. The fear of escalation or the conflict drawing in other nations can spook markets worldwide. Investors, always wary of uncertainty, might pull back, causing stock markets to tumble and businesses to suffer. The economic consequences of war are complex and far-reaching. They touch everything from the value of your savings to the price of your bread and the health of your nation's economy. They underscore the interconnectedness of our global economy, where a conflict in one corner of the world can impact livelihoods in another. As we can see, the tremors of war can shake economies far beyond the battlefield. Wars are not just fought on the ground, they are also fought in the political arena. How has the Israel-Hamas conflict influenced global politics? The ripple effects of the Israel-Hamas conflict have been felt far beyond the borders of the warring nations, extending into the international political sphere and reshaping alliances and strategies. One of the key players in this geopolitical chess game has been the United States, which has taken a proactive role in an attempt to prevent the escalation of the conflict. The US, in a show of support for its longtime ally Israel, has sent jets to the Middle East. This move is a clear message to all parties involved and the world at large about where the US stands on the issue. It's a classic example of how conflict can necessitate political action and shift the dynamics of international relations. Meanwhile, countries like Russia are potentially capitalizing on the conflict to further their own political agenda. The turbulence created by the war can be used as a smokescreen to mask other activities, or as a propaganda tool to rally support at home and abroad. This is not a new tactic. History is replete with examples of nations using external conflicts to divert attention from domestic issues or to project power and influence on the global stage. The role of technology and social media in this war cannot be overlooked. The conflict has highlighted the flaws of social media platforms in managing misinformation and propaganda. This has led to calls for stronger regulations and has further ignited the debate on the role of tech giants in politics. The political ramifications of the Israel-Hamas war are far-reaching, affecting not just the nations directly involved, but also their allies and adversaries. It has triggered a chain reaction of strategic decision-making, diplomatic maneuvering, and political posturing on the global stage. The Israel-Hamas conflict is a stark reminder of how war can reshape political landscapes. What are the long-term effects of the Israel-Hamas war? Let's delve into the aftermath. The repercussions of the Israel-Hamas conflict extend far beyond the immediate violence and destruction. One of the most significant of these is the psychological impact, particularly on children. With every rocket launched, every building collapsed, the terror experienced by those in the conflict zone is immeasurable. The echoes of these traumatic experiences can reverberate throughout a lifetime, often manifesting as mental health disorders such as post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. This conflict also has a profound impact on public health. War zones are not conducive to basic sanitation or access to healthcare. The destruction of infrastructure can lead to a lack of clean water and adequate food supplies, increasing the risk of malnutrition and disease. This is particularly devastating for newborns and young children who require consistent nutrition for healthy development. Malnutrition can lead to stunted growth and cognitive damage, the effects of which can persist into adulthood and even ripple into the next generation. The displacement of people is another long-term effect of this war. As homes and neighborhoods are destroyed, countless individuals and families are forced to flee, often with no clear destination in mind. This displacement can lead to a myriad of issues, including poverty, lack of access to education for children, and further mental and physical health problems. Furthermore, the economic impact of war is not just felt in the immediate aftermath. The costs of rebuilding infrastructure, caring for the wounded and displaced, and the loss of labor productivity can strain an economy for years, even decades, after the conflict has ended. Lastly, it's important to remember that the effects of this conflict aren't contained within the borders of Israel and Gaza. The global community feels the ripple effects, whether it's through changes in oil prices, shifts in global politics, or the collective psychological impact on those with ties to the region. In conclusion, the long-term effects of the Israel-Hamas war are multifaceted and far-reaching. Conflict leaves an indelible mark not just on the physical landscape, but also on the mental, emotional, and economic well-being of those directly and indirectly affected. Long after the guns fall silent, the impacts of war can reverberate for generations. In reflecting on the impacts of the Israel-Hamas war, it's clear that the ripple effects extend far beyond the conflict zone. This war, like many others, has immediate and long-lasting impacts that reach across borders and permeate various aspects of life. The immediate impacts are perhaps the most visible, with the tragic loss of life and property. Hundreds of lives have been lost, countless individuals have been injured, and infrastructures are in ruins. This physical devastation is an immediate and stark reminder of the human toll war exacts. The economic consequences are another significant facet of this conflict. The fluctuating oil market, the depreciation of Israel's currency, and the surge in defense sector stocks all highlight the global economic repercussions. War, in its destructive path, disrupts economies, not just in the warring nations, but across the globe. The political ramifications also warrant our attention. The conflict has strained international relations and has been used for various political agendas. It has highlighted social media's shortcomings and the potential for misinformation, both of which can fuel further conflict and division. But perhaps the most insidious of the impacts are the long-term effects. The mental health strain on those directly and indirectly involved is immense. People living in conflict zones, and even those residing in peaceful regions, can experience anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Furthermore, the deprivation of basic necessities, such as food and water, can lead to malnutrition and developmental issues, especially among children. While the Israel-Hamas conflict may be geographically distant for some, its impacts are felt worldwide, reminding us of the far-reaching consequences of war. It's a sobering reminder that war is not just a distant event, but a global issue that affects us all in one way or another.